Hey guys, so here we are doing another hive check. If you remember from my last post, the last time we got into the cougar hive, we thought that our queen might be failing. Her laying pattern was inconsistent and she had 5 or more eggs in the cells that she did lay in. After talking it through with an experienced beekeeper, he agreed that our queen was probably failing and told us that we had a couple different options. One, we could let the hive make a new queen with those supersedure cells. We were cutting those out because we weren't sure what was happening, so we decided to go with option 2, which was to replace her with a mated queen that we purchased. So on Sunday, when we did our original hive check, we made the decision to go ahead and replace her with the mated queen. So we decided to do the mated queen versus having a virgin queen, because with a virgin queen, it could be up to a month before she starts laying eggs. And we didn't want to have that decrease in population since this is the hive's first year, and wanted to give them a fighting chance to build up as much as they could before fall comes. So here we are checking to make sure our queen was released. We're pulling out the frame right now that has the queen cage on it. We want to make sure that she was released and that the bees didn't either suffocate her or let her starve. Looking at the queen cage, it does look like she got released, which is a good sign. We don't see any eggs on the bottom box, but we're still going to check all the frames. We do see a couple supersedure cells that we missed prior to installing our new queen, so we're just going to go ahead and cut those out. Continue looking in the hive for our new bee weaver queen. We decided to go with a breed called Bee Weaver, which I'll put a link to the apiary which we purchased her from. The Bee Weaver is supposed to be a little more varroa mite resistant, as well as they have some other strengths that we thought would be a good fit for our area and for the hive. Right now, the bees in the hive are corneolas, so we really want to see how the new bee queen is accepted and make sure she's doing good. We thought it would be cool to be able to compare how a bee weaver hive does versus a corneola. Our other hive is still the corneolas, so once everything switches over in the cougar hive to be an only bee weaver, I think it'll be really cool to be able to compare and contrast the two hives. Right now the bees are still bringing in a lot of nectar, and we can actually see where they've capped some of the nectar, which means it's actually honey on the corner edges of some of the frames. Looking at the population, when we get into the top box, we'll see that they're pretty full, and we're going to have to make a decision on whether or not we want to add a honey super. We're hoping if we add the honey super, a lot of that nectar and honey that they have in the bottom 2 brood boxes, they'll move up into the honey super, so then it'll give their new queen a fighting chance to lay a bunch of eggs. We didn't find the queen in the bottom box, so now we're going to move to the top box and see if we can find her there. We can see they are just starting to draw out some of those outer frames. Even though they have just started drawing them out, there's a lot of nectar in them, so that's why we're deciding whether or not to put that honey super on. We're checking to see if there are any eggs on these frames. Since she was just installed on Wednesday, the queen probably wasn't released until maybe a day or 2 before this hive check. You can see the difference here between where the honey stores are versus where the capped brood is on the frames. The Bee Weaver queen is a little bit smaller than our corneolas. You'll see when we find her that she looks pretty tiny. Usually bees are really tiny when they're newly mated, but even though she is a newly mated queen, the breed itself produces much smaller bees. So it'll be interesting to see those new worker bees when she starts hatching her own eggs. Looking at this frame, we do see that there are a bunch of eggs being laid. They do look fairly new, and so it looks like here is our new queen. She's right there in the middle of the frame. We'll try and zoom in on her so you can see how tiny she really is compared to some of our other bees. If you remember seeing the queens from the previous videos, you'll see that she's quite a bit smaller than the Corniola queen. We're hoping that she'll be able to keep up with her hive and start laying eggs. We watch her here for a little bit, and you can actually see a couple times that she sticks her head down into the cells, checking to see if she's already laid in that cell or not. As she moves along, she tries to find an empty cell so she can continue laying her eggs. Looking at the hive, there's probably about 3 empty frames from both brood boxes. And they're not even completely empty. Some of them have started drying out, so we decided that we are going to put a honey super on. Hopefully this will free up some more room for our new queen bee to lay eggs. So here we have a picture of our little bee weaver queen. So hopefully she will do well.